Prince Harry now says he's ready to forgive, but is the royal family courtroom defeats to personal heartbreak? Here's the latest on the royal rift.
Our little Prince Harry has just faced rejection for the first time in his life, and from the hands of none other than his father.
He wants to reconcile with his father, King Charles.
When the whole world was celebrating the royal event centred around his brother, Prince Harry was weeping alone.
A minute ago, calling him the Duke of Woke, the Duke of Delusion.
I believe Harry must have gotten a mini heart attack after the rejection, as it was the first time the royal prince tasted the bitter medicine of reality.
If you recall, of course, Prince Harry stated that he didn't feel safe coming back to the United Kingdom, particularly not just for himself, but for his family and, of course, his children, etc.
I think if there was ever a royal event designed to subtly remind us who's in and who's permanently on mute, it was the 300th anniversary of the Order of the Bath. In this event, Prince William and King Charles were standing shoulder by shoulder, while Prince Harry was weeping alone in California.
Meghan has told her husband, Prince Harry, "You must go it alone."
I am talking about the event when Westminster Abbey echoed with centuries of pomp and tradition, celebrating the 300th anniversary of the Order of the Bath. Every nobility was there, except for one. Prince Harry, the Duke of Zoom calls from California, once again absent, but not by choice. This time his family dumped him.
Father, King Charles, but says silence and a bitter security dispute are standing in the way.
Apparently, Harry had graced the palace with a last-minute RSVP, presumably expecting a front-row seat to a centuries-old ceremony. I find it funny that he was expecting the royal treatment from his family when he had set the family ties on fire with a memoir and a Netflix deal.
And one of the more serious newspapers calling it a snub towards Prince Charles. So a lot of the reaction from the newspaper is very negative.
Let's talk about his request to attend the event. It is a last-minute appeal, as though the 300th anniversary of a chivalric order founded in 1725 by King George I was some kind of drop-in pub gathering. I am surprised how Prince Harry could do this sort of stupidity after all that he and his wife did. At every event, they became concerned about their security and privacy, and now they are shamelessly asking the royal family to invite them and bear with their complaints and cheap tactics.
With Prince Harry, these battles just engulf him, don't they, you know? Why don't you just keep quiet and get on with it? But as ever, we have the real reason as now what could be happening regards that security.
One could almost hear King Charles III sighing through gritted teeth after reading his appeal, pen poised over the RSVP list, muttering, "Ah yes, Harold, our part-time prince from Montecito, always the traditionalist." Needless to say, the answer was no, a polite royal no, which in palace terms is roughly equivalent to not even in your dreams.
It looks like the former royal Prince Harry could soon be going it alone, but in what capacity?
Now, this isn't just a case of Harry being left off the guest list for some garden party. This is the Order of the Bath, a ceremonial bedrock where royals and decorated military officers gather in full pageantry. Once upon a time, Harry held titles like Captain General of the Royal Marines, but those were relinquished in 2020, back when he and Meghan Markle launched their bold campaign of financial independence, which ironically seems to involve publicly monetising every private royal conversation.
So many, Caroline, and I think actually the nature of the interview surprised me in and of itself. The fact that he did it so quickly after that Court of Appeal security judgment.
But let's be fair, Harry did serve in Afghanistan. He did have a meaningful military career, and yet that resume tends to blur under the high-definition glare of Spare, in which he detailed everything from frostbitten body parts to sibling scuffles, a literary therapy session with a $20 million advance.
You know, the family motto is never complain, never explain, but it's just a motto, and it doesn't really hold.
There's a lot of complaining and a lot of explaining.
So when he asked to pop in for a ceremony steeped in honour and silence, the palace likely weighed the odds, risk a tabloid circus at the Abbey, or keep the focus on the monarchy's legacy. Guess what was the final decision? Tradition won.
And that did not sit well with the British press. Do you have any sense of how it's sitting with the royal family?
The symbolism here is thick. This wasn't just a declined calendar invite, this was the monarchy drawing a very ceremonial sword in the sand. Because while Harry may still carry royal blood, his chosen path has made it abundantly clear he's no longer marching to the royal drum. And if you're going to step away from the institution, it turns out, the institution has no problem stepping away from you, even at events where you once might have been centre stage.
There's a lot to be discussed, and I really hope that they are willing to sit down and talk about it.
They rejected his request, a fact that says far more than any carefully worded press release. Because letting Harry stroll into Westminster Abbey in May 2024, amidst the red robes and medals of the Order of the Bath, would have risked sending the wrong signal. Like saying, sure, you threw the family under a Netflix bus, but hey, come grab a sword and sing a hymn.
The interview to the BBC was a really weird choice, considering the part the BBC played in Diana's death, to be honest, because Martin Bashir, obviously we know there was a lot of cover-ups that happened.
No, that wouldn't do, not when the entire monarchy has spent the past few years trying to remind the world that royal life is about service, not streaming rights. The palace had to hold the line. They weren't about to roll out the red carpet for the same guy who opened his memoir, Spare, by recounting how his brother pushed him into a dog bowl. I believe this tale is less Shakespearean tragedy, more sitcom slapstick. The trust, if it ever existed in recent years, is now thoroughly scorched earth. Inviting Harry back might have looked like the first step toward reconciliation, but here's the thing, reconciliation usually follows remorse, not a podcast series, a tell-all memoir, and interviews where the word truth is weaponised like a fencing foil.
Shown absolutely no willingness to reconcile up until this point. And I'm not sure how honesty is burning bridges.
Instead, by denying him entry, the monarchy made its position clear. Harry is now a civilian with royal lineage, not a working royal with ceremonial privilege. And now let's talk about the moment, when Charles officially named Prince William as the Great Master of the Order of the Bath. I laughed. Not because it was funny, but because the symbolism was just so perfectly on the nose it could have been scripted by Netflix if only Harry still had a deal. The position had been vacant since Prince Philip's death in 2021, and yet somehow the stars aligned for Charles to fill it right now, right here, at the Abbey, in full ceremonial splendour, while Harry sat oceans away in spiritual exile. What a coincidence.
In the book you write, he says, "They tried, darling boy, I'm afraid she didn't make it." These phrases remain in my mind like darts in a board, you say.
I think this was the palace's equivalent of updating a family WhatsApp group and changing the admin privileges while one member is mysteriously no longer included. By choosing this precise setting, King Charles delivered a message so calculated it could have been measured with a royal compass. The future is William. Period. He is the dependable, dutiful, and most importantly, quiet son.
Well, as King Charles III begins his reign, Prince William has become heir to the throne, and Catherine, the new Princess of Wales. And while William has lived his life...
Now sure, Charles has said he wants reconciliation, but I believe actions speak louder than soft focus interviews. And actions like this, where the heir is lifted in a centuries-old ceremony while the spare isn't even allowed past security, are not subtle. They're not olive branches, their boundary lines are drawn in gold leaf. This was a staged royal reboot, and Harry wasn't in the cast list.
But after that, nothing was okay for a long time.
And of course, there was the broader PR goal at play. The united front of King Charles and Prince William, both in full ceremonial gear, was practically engineered to soothe the British public. To remind everyone that despite modern noise, political unease, and the occasional family soap opera broadcast globally, the royal family is still intact, polished, and knows exactly who's steering the ship.
The young family has settled into their growing royal roles, offering us a glimpse of what the future may look like.
Honestly, I laugh when people say this was just another ceremony. If you believe that, I have a tiara to sell you. No, this was a royal mic drop. The future king was centre stage. The current king handed him a title older than most countries, and the one royal who left to find his voice, nowhere near the room, not even a cameo or a whisper. In the House of Windsor, absence speaks just as loudly as attendance. And in this case, the silence around Harry was thunderous. I think the real show wasn't at Westminster Abbey, but in sunny Montecito, California, where Prince Harry apparently spent the event drowning in his own emotional sea of devastation and isolation. I mean, the reports practically paint a scene straight out of a royal soap opera. Harry, remote and heartbroken, while across the pond, the rest of the family was busy looking like they were auditioning for the cover of history's most stoic dynasties.
They responded that they were, quote, religious viewers of Suits.
You have been here for 5 years, and just because I outrank you does not mean I have the authority to command your services.
As for Meghan, well, she's chosen the classic royal tactic of silence, at least publicly. I think that's strategic. After all, openly cheering on Harry's feud with the monarchy might be a tad counterproductive when you're trying to build a brand based on quiet strength and modern values. But of course, speculation is the royal sport here. Some insiders suggest she's quietly supportive, waving pom-poms behind the scenes while the cameras aren't looking. I laugh when people expect a royal family drama to play out like a daytime talk show. Nope, it's more like a centuries-old chess match. Except this time, the pawn is sulking in California, and the kings and heirs are making moves in London, all while maintaining that calm, unflappable veneer.